This is Pixelated Audio, and you're listening to Expansion Pack 28. All right, welcome back to Pixelated Audio. This is Expansion Pack 28. It's been a little bit of a gap between our last episode, but we needed a break. Anyways, we're your hosts. I'm Brian, and this is Gene, and we're happy to be back.
Hey, folks, we're well rested. We're here with an expansion pack, which means we're taking it pretty loosey-goosey today, but it's a nice way to get us back into the swing of things.
I wouldn't say well-rested. I've been stressed out the last week. Like with work stuff.
That's true. That said, we ended last year on a really high note. That's, man, Dan Hess, Pilot Wings, that has got to be one for the records. That was an amazing show.
Yeah. So we wanted to do something light today. Expansion Pack, we kind of haven't done one in a while, so Expansion Pack 28. Basically, just got some random tracks. That one we came in with was from a game called Dunk Shot on the Sega System 16B hardware. The track was called Toast, and this is from an unknown composer using the YM2151, published and developed by Sega and released in 1986. It's pretty awesome way to come in. Seriously, this just makes me smile. This track is so good.
I've been digging that Sega System 16 stuff. We had that baseball episode a while ago. It's got a similar kind of vibe.
I'm telling you, man, like this was just a rockin' system, man. Like Alien Syndrome, Alter Beast, Golden Axe Shinobi, Wonder Boy 3. I mean, just a lot of really good titles on the system. Yeah,
that whole System 16, I've been really enjoying it. You know, I say this often, or maybe not that often, but sometimes it's nice to hear the sound chips before people kind of fully mastered them, when things are a little bit more like raw, or you know, they're figuring things out, and like basically anything by Uwabo.
Experimenting and like yeah, I think also just a lot of like influence from pop culture at the time. I mean, this has like a very 80s vibe to it. Like,
oh yeah, undeniably. I mean, what else would it be, right? Maybe the 70s.
I know. And the track is called Toast, so I'm assuming that they're just kicking back, eating some toast. And no, it's probably some, you know, you win a trophy or something like that, and you're happy because the game it's a basketball game, Dunk Shot. It's a 4-player basketball game that's played from a bird's eye view. So did you ever see this one? I'm sure you've seen it before.
I did not. No.
If you saw the screenshots, you would know what it is. It's basically you're looking down at the court. The basketball hoop is really big and your characters are small, so it has that perspective to it. But yeah,
you know what? I feel like you say that, and now that I'm looking at the screenshots, maybe I have kind of seen the attract mode on this game.
You might not have played it, but the cabinet was really interesting. And actually, I'm not like I love trackball for certain kind of games. This one I don't know how it would work. But it's interesting. It's a cocktail cabinet, and then there's 4 trackballs, each with like 2 buttons, so like a pass and a shoot. So you can have 4 people that sit next to each other at a cocktail cabinet. Like that's like side by side.
It's got to be pretty cramped, right?
That's got to be extremely cramped. Like,
I usually like one person at a time, I think, is the maximum on each side. But hey, if you're kids and they're smaller, maybe it works. I don't know.
I have a Miss Pac-Man cabinet, and like I can straddle that thing. Right, there's no room for somebody else next to me. Anyways,
slap their hand if they're trying to take you're trying to steal the shot. Like, get back there. We're on the same team.
Now, I could be wrong and like the cabinet just be really, really big, but from what I'm looking at some of these images, I could have sworn I've seen this in the wild, but who knows,
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it. It is 4-player, 2 on each side, but it looks like a pretty normal sized monitor in there, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, in the 80s, they didn't really have much bigger than like a 30-inch or something, right? No, not even that. True. It was like 24
Yeah, like 24 or 25, yeah.
So what'd you think about the track?
It definitely reminded me a lot of that baseball track that we were listening to on the, I can't remember which episode number it was, but, it's kind of got like just a good groove to it. A little bit like, I don't know, 80s chords, Genesis, what's
yeah. I got the Genesis.
Maybe, kind of that sort of
like totally get the Genesis vibe, but yeah.
I mean, that was the thing at the time. So I always feel very smiley when I listen to this kind of music. It's very uplifting. But it wasn't super complex or anything. It was just, a fun little track.
Dun 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 dun. Yeah, like I almost picture like a
little Who's the Boss, maybe,
or like like a Wrigley's gum commercial or something. Anyways,
oh yeah, Mentos. Same. It's all the same. Well, from the same references.
Moving on. Happy 2022. What do you got next for us?
Funny you mention Sega during the late 80s, because this next track is from a composer we've heard from a lot of those games, moving forward a little bit to the early 90s. This is from the game Sid Mead's Terraforming for the TurboGrafx CD, and the composer is Katsuhiro Hayashi, a fan favorite. I love that guy's music. Not with Sega, but he was very well known for his music on Sega systems, including Quartet and some of the other stuff we've talked about. So, yeah, take a listen. I love this track. This is stage 1. All right, that was stage 1 from the game Terraforming by Katsuhiro Hayashi for the PC Engine CD or the TurboGrafx CD. I love me some early 90s proggy, synth rocky guitar work. So
yeah, that was that was really cool. I don't think I've ever heard this before, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, listen to so much video game music for like the last, 10 years that I can't pinpoint it. But anyways, really cool instrumentation. Whatever instrument that was trying to approximate is really rad. Like you don't hear that, like it's like a whistly kind of jazz flute guitar. It's
really kind of like a weird hybrid between like a synth guitar and like, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It does have something kind of layered in there, so it doesn't intentionally sound like, distorted guitar or anything like that. So, oh yeah. I've had this one in my back pocket for kind of a long time. So actually, 2 of these tracks that I'm playing today are ones that I've been sitting on for kind of a while, and I've wanted to do a show about terraforming. But the thing is, every time I listen to the rest of the soundtrack, it's like it's all over the place. It's not bad necessarily, but it's just like gets kind of more like orchestral. And dare I say, a little bit more boring as it goes on. Like I feel like this is the most distinctive track.
I think you've just opened a debate in the Discord or wherever this is being listened to. Yeah, I'm curious myself. Actually, I'd like to go through the rest of the soundtrack. I feel like I know it, but again, who knows? Yeah.
So just a little bit of context on this game. So it's called Sid Mead's Terraforming, and I'll go into who Sid Mead is in just a bit. But it was released in Japan in 92 and in the US in 93, developed by a company called Right Stuff Corporation and published by NEC Home Electronics. And I actually didn't pull up too much on that company. Their other games weren't super notable.
NEC?
No. Right Stuff Corporation.
Oh,
they
I
were
was
kind
like,
of a
what?
short-lived. No, NEC, obviously. They were responsible for, the TurboGrafx and tons of in-house games and things. But I wanted to, actually talk more about Sid Mead because, it was kind of that era where everybody was trying to get some clout into their game by having a famous name onto it. So I'm just pulling this straight from the Wikipedia, but, you'll know it when you hear it. He was an industrial designer and a neo-futurist concept artist. So he's probably best known for his work on Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Blade Runner, Tron, Short Circuit, Aliens. Basically, if there was a movie that kind of had like a very distinctive future that was not H.R. Giger, it was probably by this guy. So, he was credited as being one of the most influential concept artists and the man who illustrates the future, or the artist who illustrates the future. So, he was very, very much like, I don't know, had a huge impact on film sci-fi in the 70s and 80s. And he went on and continued to work on stuff into the future, but like, that period in like the early to mid 80s was really where like, people still kind of remember that work.
Oh, I know who Sid Mead is.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's not a name that I think you may recognize. You probably know his work better than you know the guy. So I know I did for sure. Like I kept thinking, why do I know that name? Why is it? Oh, Sid Mead's Terraforming. Who cares? Like who's Sid Mead? And then I looked it up and was like, oh, that is Sid Mead. Yeah, I know him.
Right. Yeah. Cool soundtrack though.
Yeah.
What a cool find.
Yeah. What do you got next, Brian? I'm anxious to hear it.
Well, I could go for something that's like more in your face, big, but there's this track there's this game that I've been kind of playing off and on every now and then recently for whatever reason, and it's not Wordle. It's it's called Soldam. For it originally was released on arcade in 92, but it's a series and there's like quite a few games. But this is from the Gameboy version, and this is called the theme of Sekiero.
Cool. Let's check it out.
All right, that was the theme of Sekiero, and this is from Soldam on the Game Boy. Came out in 1993, released by Jalico, both published and developed. And just decided on picking this track.
Why not? I mean, I'd never heard of this one. I thought I was pretty aware of the puzzle games because it looks like a puzzle game. I think
it is a puzzle game. Yeah,
yeah. On the Game Boy, I played a lot of was it Quirk or the tomato game or whatever it was, and Tetris, of course. But
it's you have to basically collect. It's fruits that drop. It's kind of hard to tell on the Game Boy version because there's an arcade version that came out a year before. And I didn't mention the composer for the arcade. It was Atsuyoshi Isemura, and then for Game Boy, I don't have I think it was converted by somebody else, but also supporting sound was Yasuyuki Suzuki. So there's a few different people, but I don't know exactly who did the Game Boy version. Anyways, the game itself, back to the puzzle game, is they're supposed to be fruit, but you can't really tell because limited pixels and color palette, right?
Yeah.
But what you have to do is you have to line them up in a row, like all the way across the row. And each square that you get, it's like Tetris, where you get the blocks, like the kind of 4-piece block. Mm-hmm. Not the long, tall one that everybody wants, but like the square, the fat square one. And you can rotate that around and kind of put them in like vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. Anyways, so when you get these rows of fruit, then it kind of goes away. It's basically kind of like another version of like Yoshi's Cookie or Tetris, or with more of like a diagonal and horizontal element. Yeah,
I'm looking at it. The square grid reminds me. I know it's not like this, but Lumines uses the same kind of block. They're always squares.
Yeah, that's a better example.
It's alternating color patterns, so it could be like, one of the 4 is one color, 2 of them or 3 of them or 4 of them, whatever. So
yeah,
got it.
And I guess the Sekiero is a piece that has all 4 of the same 4 spaces in the square. It's all 4 of the same color. So something like that. Anyways, the reason why I picked this is because, first of all, I play this game every now and then. I don't know. I have a device that I keep kind of near my bed, and sometimes I'll put something on just to, kind of relax as I'm getting ready to crash. And I found this game months ago, and it's really fun. It's addictive game, and seriously, if it came out on iOS or Android today, it would probably be doing really well. Anyways,
puzzle games are timeless like that. I love them.
They're really good. But Jalico's not really known for their puzzle game, so you might have passed this up.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And the music is, again, it's catchy. It has that kind of sweet innocence to it, right? Where it's MICKEYMO. Sorry, I can't say that. Sure. But hear me out though. We were talking in the last track that I played, the first track, the Dunk Shot. What is it? Almost innocence, that sweet innocence of kind of early music. Now, this wasn't early in the Game Boy's life cycle, but it has this kind of just very playful feeling to it. And I like that. Kind of like the early arcades had more of this, major key, upbeat, very bouncy sort of music. Which was exactly where this stems from, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that makes sense.
Anyways, I wanted to bring something, I tend to bring a lot of dark and heavy music, but this is, it was fun.
Cool. Yeah, no, I liked it. It was a lot of fun. I definitely like something that's a little bit more complex sometimes, but what I love about these shows is it gives us an opportunity to just what the heck, why not?
Well, and that's the other thing too, is I listen to a lot of music, but I think maybe I don't want to share this on the show because maybe it doesn't fit everybody's taste. I don't know, but since I really don't care what everybody's tastes are, I want to promote this stuff. Remember, what we do, we listen to this music and stuff. It's really to appreciate even the simple stuff. So it's
for
cool.
Sure, yeah.
Cool. All right, what do you got for us?
So this one is a little bit of backstory to this. We're getting to 2 decades out from the 2000s, unfortunately.
God.
And I wouldn't say I'm nostalgic for that era necessarily. I would say it was a really rough period for both games because of we talk about this all the time. The mergers, a lot of mid-sized developers went under. VGM was kind of going through a weird kind of awkward phase, but I feel like there's still quite a lot of good music in there. So I actually picked something that's maybe, it's from Falcom. It's from a Falcom game, but it's probably one that I don't think as many people have heard of or really have thought much about. It's from the game Gurumin, which came out on PSP and then eventually, I think, on Windows and a couple of other platforms. This track is called Sight of Silence. Kind of a...
Oh, cool.
Well, I'll let you take a listen, but here it is. That was Sight of Silence from the game Gurumin, originally released for the Windows or the PSP. It was somewhere around the same time. And that was from Falcom, composed by the Falcom sound team. We do have a likely credit of Takahide Murayama, and I do have some credit info for him if that's who it ends up being, but that's the best I got. As we know, Falcom is notoriously secretive about who their composers were, almost more than any other company. But yeah, I love this track.
Yeah, no, excellent. The track itself takes some time to get going, like good 20 seconds or something, but it unleashes that stand-up or that upright bass, and it's all over, man. It's so good. And then the Rhodes organ comes in, and then you got this really nice like lead, kind of like jazz guitar, and it's just a really good track. Caught me off guard. I had never heard of this game. Gurumin, is that what you said? Gurumin?
Yeah. So this is one definitely people would have probably missed. I mean, this was like kind of in that weird, like I said, adolescent era where the Falcom that people knew of the 90s, mostly from like the Ease games, they were kind of trying out some new things. This one was a one-off. I don't think there were any other games in this series. It's kind of like a top-downy Zelda sort of game. So, you fight enemies, but you don't actually gain levels. You usually have to do something like defeat a boss to get more hearts, to actually increase your life bar, that kind of thing. And, it's kind of stuck around, but its first outing was on the PSP. So, like, console-wise. So I think a lot of people missed this one. Now we're back to Ease being all over the place. So, and this got re-released on the 3DS and a couple of other places, but it's a fun enough game. I played it a little bit, but it's not going to be one that you're going to go back and be like, wow, that was amazing. It was a lost hidden gem. That said, the soundtrack is really good. There's a lot of great music on it, but this is, to me, the standout track.
Huh, yeah. So it looks like there's a series, actually. There's a few games. I'm just looking up this here. Gurumin. Oh, Guru. So, like, the image I'm looking at is there's like a drill or something like that, which would make sense because in Japanese, guru is like to spin around. So maybe it has something to do with like that's the weapon or something
you
like
use
that.
It kind of like you would use the sword in Zelda, and I think it does have like some spin attacks where you can like charge it up. But like overall, it's pretty standard stuff. Enemies appear, they walk along the kind of the grid, and you attack them as they come up, and they're always, you go to the next screen, the enemies respawn, that sort of thing.
Huh? Yeah. No, sounds cool.
Yeah. I don't think there is actually. I think the second game is just the remake for 3DS. I don't think it's actually a series.
Oh, okay. Maybe it is.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it was just remade for the 3DS, but I could be wrong. Maybe there was some slight updates or it's kind of a revamp. But no, it's a cool game, definitely, but not one that I think people are going to run out and want to play immediately, but definitely worth taking a look at.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? The art style is Brave Fencer Musashi. Did you ever play that?
I did not, but I can see that for sure. It's kind of like a little bit cutesy, but not like too far. It's not like, I don't know. Yeah, you kind of have to look at the screenshots to see for yourself. Yeah,
fair. No, cool soundtrack, man. This is a good find here.
Yeah, definitely one to check out the rest of it. It may not be to everybody's tastes. It's another one that kind of is a little bit all over the place, but 2000s, so you're gonna hear a lot of like techno, trance, drum and bass. I think this one is a good blend of that plus some really good melodic elements, which is why I picked it.
Yeah, I think it was an excellent choice. Released, you said, in 2004?
Yeah, originally, and then I think in 2005 or 6 on PSP, and then again, it even got released for a Chinese Android-based system called the Tomahawk F1.
Tomahawk F1, yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah. But there's like all sorts of like cloud-based gaming platforms and Android-based, so it's not really a surprise.
Yeah, doesn't count anymore. Cool. Are you ready to get into our last track?
I am. Yeah, what you got?
Let's see here. I have a few to pick from. Like, I've been planning on doing a show with you for so long that I just started saving them up. Okay, let's do this one. This is a track. Did you ever play Kid Chameleon?
Yes, although I didn't like it that much.
So it's weird. There's a spectrum of people who really like the game and those who don't like it at all. It's either you like it or you don't. I find myself kind of like I enjoy it, but I don't ever try to go back to it. So maybe that means I don't know. Anyways, the soundtrack is really cool. It was composed by Mark Miller, or his production company, Neuromantic Productions. And this was released on the Mega Drive in 1992. So let's take a listen to Fantasy Area. All right. That was Fantasy Area from Kid Chameleon on the Sega Mega Drive for the Genesis, released in 1992, developed by Sega and published by Sega and Atari, depending on the region, I guess. It was composed by Mark Miller of Neuromantic Productions, who you'd know from Earthworm Jim and various other stuff around this time. Pretty well known. And the Neuromantic Productions, I believe they have a sound driver specifically that they were using a lot. But the chip is obviously using the YM2612 and the SM76489. And yeah, Kid Chameleon. It's a terribly cool, horribly boring game.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off with a dude who's too cool for school, wearing a leather jacket and, white shirt and jeans. You know the story. Goes to an arcade, gets sucked in to Tron World, and, it's just bad news from there. He's got to fight all the enemies. Happens to everybody. I know what happened to me when I was a kid. I barely made it out. That's why I got into tech. So that's how a lot of these CEOs started out. Yeah,
the game. Look, it's a good looking game. It's not anything to give it a shot if you've never played it. Give Kid Chameleon a go. But I think that the areas are really big from what I remember, but they're just they're a little bit repetitive to where it's like the same thing for a very long period of time. So you might love the game, you might not, I don't know, but the track is really cool. What'd you think?
I had fun with the game, by the way, but I will say the track it's really funky. It kind of reminds me of like 80s electro. If you're familiar with I'm trying to remember some of the bands that were popular, but just look up electro. It's just kind of like a sort of a weird mix between synthesizers and hip hop. I don't know. There was a ton of it like from the mid 80s onwards. It's good stuff. Actually, it kind of reminds me a little bit of remember our Home Alone episode?
Yeah.
There was a couple of tracks in there from the Genesis that had this kind of like let the drum machine start wilding while you're soloing over with synthesizers. But it's got like good percussive rhythmic elements, and I think the Genesis was really good at that. And
totally.
I like it a lot. It's a good groove.
It has when you start looking at some of the games that Mark Miller's been involved in, that we should get him on the show at some point.
Sure.
There, I'm looking here at like Disney's Jungle Book, Earthworm Jim, Rocko's Modern Life. They all have these. He even did like voice effects for Star Control 2 and sound design. Pink Panther Goes to Hollywood, a bunch of stuff. He did sound effects for Toe Jam and Earl. So he did music direction for Toe Jam and Earl too. So nice. I mean, like a lot of different kind of Western games that he was involved in, not just sound and composition and sound design, but also like visual effects and stuff like that. Really credited to more on the audio stuff, but yeah, he did all sorts of stuff.
No, I dug it. Yeah,
as well as different sound effects here and there. So yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if I have much else to say about it other than, honestly, I did really enjoy Kid Chameleon at the time. I don't know that I'd go back to it these days, but,
I'm kind of thinking to go back and play it now just because like, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll have a different opinion. Maybe my old person brain is like simple enough to where I'm like, the good old days. I'm going to...
Maybe. Report back on the next show or whenever you get around to it.
We'll see. The next show ends up being a Kid Chameleon episode. No, just kidding.
Cool. You ready to move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we're going to play the track and then talk about it before we wrap up. I know a lot of times we like end the show on our last track, but it makes more sense to kind of do a little bit of bio on this one. This is one I brought up to you some time ago, Brian. This is from the PC game titled Vlad Tepes Dracula. This is track 5.
Okay.
That was track 5 from the game Vlad, Tepes, Dracula, composed by Carl Hansson. And I'll talk a little bit more about this game. Had some really great alternative titles. A Reign of Terror. Also, Dracula, the Carpathian Warrior in French and Spanish. But, I'm not going to butcher those pronunciations. But it's really like kind of a boring RTS. But like for some reason, it has like this really epic piano thing in it. And I just, I fell in love with this track.
You realize what you just played, right?
What's that?
You played Dracula meets Gabriel Knight.
Oh, 100%. As soon as I heard this, like, my child brain was forever changed after I played Gabriel Knight, and anything to do with the occult and Dracula.
It's been a while. It's been a while since we brought up Gabriel Knight, so
it has. Luckily, we got through that episode with minimal Tim Curry impressions. But no, I this one was an interesting track. I found it through that channel that I found. What was it? Airport CEO. The archaeologist of lost music. He just had a lot of weird PC games that if you went to a computer store like CompUSA, it was just like on a rack somewhere. It wasn't a game that anybody would spend money on unless they were like, what the hell? It's like $5. So, it was published by The Learning Company and Soft Key Multimedia, which if we ever do our edutainment episode, we'll talk a lot more about them. But they kind of gobbled up all of the bigger edutainment companies, and then everything kind of came crashing down.
Was this an edutainment game?
They market it that way, but I don't really believe it was. I mean, I've watched gameplay footage. It looks like a really bad Warcraft. You select a bunch of units and you attack castles and you attack other units. The description in Wikipedia tries to make it sound a little bit more educational than it was. Like it's a castle management game. It's like, no, it's not. It's just like you move some units to fight other soldiers on the on the field in real time. It's not that. So
castle management game. That's
it was something like that. So I have a little bit of information about the guy, Carl Hansson. He didn't work on that many games. Another one of these folks that was kind of in and out of the games industry. He worked for Digital Illusions in Sweden. So, just that kind of burgeoning Swedish game industry. And he worked on Midtown Madness 3 as a sound designer, as well as Rally Sport 2. Those are both, I think, Xbox games. But with this company, which is... Oh, sorry, I forgot the name of the company, which is Computer House GBG AB. Those are acronyms that probably mean like corporation, essentially. Clans, Dragonfire, GeoSmart, and this. They're not games you probably would have heard of. I certainly hadn't.
Yeah, I don't. Computer House, I mean...
Yeah, it's a Swedish game dev company in 1997 that was branded as an edutainment software company. So, like, I don't know what to make of that.
Interesting. Huh, well.
Yeah, some of their games were kind of like Diablo clones. So they were clearly in that, like, if we just copy better game design, we'll learn how to make good games. The company died after that. So, like 99, 2000 didn't really survive. Oh, well. Some of these folks moved on.
Well, good stepping stone for, some of them. So that works.
Exactly. Brought us Airport CEO and all those other Swedish games that we'd love to talk about on here.
Cool. All right. Well, we had a lot of really cool tracks. You want to summarize what we had? So I played Dunk Shot in the beginning from the arcade, Kid Chameleon, and Soldam on the Gameboy. You had Vlad, Tepes, Dracula.
Yeah, in reverse order. Then I had Sight of Silence from Gurumin.
Oh, right.
And then Stage 1 from Sid Mead's Terraforming, which...
Yeah,
a lot of meandering synths and all those tracks, and that was not intentional. I guess it just kind of hooked into my brain.
Yeah, I had like absolutely no rhyme or reason to any of my tracks. It was like something I just like, oh yeah, I like that, and then I make a note of it, and then carry on the rest of the day. So.
I did want to quickly say this before because I mentioned the composer for Gurumin, the likely composer, and I didn't actually list his credits, but if it is actually. Takahide Murayama, he's very likely the composer that worked on Trails. Well, he is the composer that worked on Trails in the Sky, Xanadu Next, Akiba's Trip 1 and 2, and he's a bass player. So I want to try to give credit where credit is due, but I also don't want to commit too hard and say that he is the guy, because this game doesn't have really strong, like, we know exactly which track was made by which composer. There were like 5 or 6 on this one.
Well, on these expansion packs, we do the best.
We do the best we can with the information we got.
Yeah. in the allotted time, right? We're trying to get back into our recording, and it's not going to work if we spend like 4 hours researching a PSP composer. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening, and we're glad we got a little break in there, but we're very happy to be back, and always doing the show is something that brings us happiness, and hopefully you got some cool music to listen to, and it brings you some happiness as well. So thank you so much for listening. We'll see you back in a few weeks for the next episode.